afternoon and welcome. It's another lovely warm day here in the UK. Slightly overcast, but we have enjoyed a few weeks now of wonderful warm weather, and as a Brit it's so nice not to have to put a coat on, or even in the car at the moment, but we can just walk out the house without having to pick up a coat or a hat or an umbrella. It's wonderful. A little bit challenging for the dogs. Thankfully I've got limestone floors in the kitchen, and they can go and lie flat on there, and sometimes I join them because it's nice and cold. But so anyway, today I really wanted to talk a little bit about fat, because there's a lot of, I think, misunderstanding even now around fat. If we look at fat, we've been told, well, I was told way back, that fat is not good for you. It's related to heart disease, high cholesterol, cancers and all sorts of other diseases, and as such fat is bad, and fat makes you fat. It doesn't. As simple as that. It doesn't. The science has been debunked. The misrepresented science, or misunderstood. With this, I mean, there are people I work with even now, and trying to get them to accept fats into their diets. It's quite hard work, but I want to talk about that more today. And I also want to talk about fat helping you lose body fat, and it can help there as well. So it's just knowing a little bit more about it. So today we're going to look at how we use fat in our bodies. I'm going to talk a little bit about the different types of fat, and where you may find them. And then at the end I want to introduce you to a new essential fatty acid, which I think is very exciting, and it just improves our understanding more and more so when we find out a little something we didn't know existed. So, right, I've got my notes here because, as you know, I need to refer to things, otherwise I go off track. So, yes, I started off telling you about how fat has been demonized, and the food industry started to take fat products and reduce the fat within those products. Now, when you take the fat out of a product, you take away a lot of the flavour, and as a result of that they put a lot of sugars in to increase its palatability. Now, we all know now that high sugar and high refined carb foods, they're very strongly linked to putting on weight and also increasing inflammation, increasing risk of heart disease, cancers, etc, etc, etc. There's a whole list that they can be linked to. And a lot of people bought into it and started buying low-fat products, low-fat yogurts, spreads for their toast instead of butter, skimmed milks. There's so much one could say about everything about I think I'm very fortunate I didn't get on that bandwagon. I mean, I grew up with this. It was the message that I heard from a young age, not so much from my mother. I have to say, she liked butter, and I like butter. Can't stand margarine, so she did use it for baking. But I never bought the low fat. I always went down the road of, well, the full fat version is the best, tastes the nicest. I won't have it as often. I don't want to have low fat, it's yuck. So I didn't go down that road, and I feel very grateful that that was my stubbornness, or whatever you might say, or my stubbornness wasn't going to follow that trend. I wanted full fat. If I was going to have it, I was going to have the full fat. But I made sure I also bought the best quality I could, which I think is important as well. But how does our body use fat? We use it. Our brain is made up mostly of fat. We use it. Our brain, yes, it can use carbohydrate for energy more easily, but it can also run on the energy that can be produced from fats called ketones, and that's a very clean energy. So it can be really good for a very sort of sparky active brain. So it's good, we need it for our brains. We need fats to make hormones. We need cholesterol for hormone production and other things. And that's really important to appreciate. We can get cholesterol in through our diets, and we also make it in our liver. Now, if we get high amounts in our diet, the liver will downregulate its production of cholesterol. But if we have low amounts, the liver will upregulate. So there's a nice little balance going on there. But clearly, the liver knows what it's doing, because we do need cholesterol. So cholesterol is important, particularly, as I say, for hormone production. It's involved in the immune system as well. Fats can help regulate inflammation in the body, and which is important, improve our mood, our nerve function, and also I wanted to mention its ability or its use in every cell. The cell membrane is made up of a phospholipid bilayer, and the lipid is the fats, and it needs a little bit of saturated fat, which is solid at room temperature, and unsaturated fat, which is liquid at room temperature, and that nice blend gives the right sort of consistency to get a well-functioning cell membrane. And the cell membrane stops things going in that shouldn't go in, but it allows nutrients in, waste to come out, and some vibrations can go through the cell membrane, which is a messaging system as well. So if it's too hard or too soft, neither will be functional. Both will be, will be a problem. So we need both. And just to say that dietary fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol have no link to heart disease, no direct link to heart disease. But they can improve our blood vessels, our brain function, and also, as I say, regulate inflammation. And fats behave differently to carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, when we eat too many, are then they spike insulin, which lays it down as fat. But fats actually speed up the metabolism, and they can tell the brain when we're full, so it helps us to stop eating before we overeat. And they also, it can help you lean towards fat burning. But we need to get balances right here. So the types of fat we're going to look at are saturated fat. We've mentioned it like butter. Now these, they're saturated, they're stable, they don't have any double bonds. If they've got double bonds, they could then bind with something else and produce something else, but they don't. They're stable. Monounsaturated fats, now these have one single double bond, so it can bond with something else or bind with something else. And polyunsaturated have more than one double bond. And then the third group, or fourth group I should say, is trans fats. And I'll just talk about trans fats now before I go into the others. Trans fats are, I'm going to say, man-made fats. My mother used to say, don't play with your food, and yet the food industry plays with our food all the time. And trans fats are, say, oils that are taken and heated, or they produce oils from foods, but to do it they can overheat them. They can become, they use chemicals sometimes, and they can become rancid in that process, and then they deodorize them, which is another process, and then bottle it, and we're supposed to use it as a healthy fat. Oh no, no. Rancid fats are, they smell bad to tell you, don't eat it, it's bad. So trans fats are not good, and basically it's changing the structure of the fat, so the molecules go to the opposite side, and the body doesn't know what to do with it, doesn't recognize it, can't use it, and then it becomes a problem. The other one to keep in mind is hydrogenated fats, and this is where you can take an oil or a liquid fat, put it through a process of hydrogenation to produce a solid, like margarine. Again, don't go near it. It's not a food. It's man-made pretend food. So I'd be careful with those, basically. Yeah, and fats generally, if they can be unstable, and they can be unstable when there's too much light, heat, or oxygen present, which is why often you see them in dark bottles, stored in a cool place, out of direct sunlight. And when they are unstable and they are they do react to the heat, the light, the oxygen. They can become toxic, and we want to avoid that. Now, saturated fats, there's been a link to it causing inflammation, and yes, it can when it's connected to refined carbohydrates. So you might find fats in a cake with refined carbohydrates and sugar. Yes, that mix is not a good one. So you want to avoid things like cakes and biscuits and look at them as the singular butter or say milk rather than in a cake. And also it's important that animal fats as well contain fat-soluble nutrients like vitamins A, D, E and K. So we do need fat to be able to absorb those vitamins, and that's important that we keep that in mind. We need fats to do that as well. So monounsaturated fats include things like olives, olive oil, avocados, lard, some fish and many nuts as well. So that's the mono. The polyunsaturated, this includes omega-6 and omega-3, which are essential fatty acids. These are ones that we need to take in our diet. Our bodies can't make it out of other fats. We need that to be taken in through our diet. And they're very important when it comes to the cell membrane. And sources of this are fish, particularly oily fish like mackerel, sardines, salmon, and also walnuts, sunflowers, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds I should say, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, and sesame seeds as well, in the seed form. Don't go for the oil, that's man-made. So you really want to look for your fats from whole food sources, keeping in mind it can upregulate your metabolism, it can tell your brain that you're full, it can help you use the fat stores that you have, it's a clean fuel for the brain, can help your mood, good for nerve function, all sorts of things. And you want to avoid the man-made ones, the hydrogenated fats, margarines, the vegetable oils, baked goods, processed foods, deep fried foods. They're the ones you really want to avoid. Yes, so now a question about dairy. Some people say avoid dairy. Yes, we can be intolerant to it. It is one of the allergens high up on the list of allergens. I tend to include it, but in moderation. You know, I make my own yogurt now. I've made my own butter. I do tend to buy sheep's and goat's cheeses over cows. And I look again for organic when I can. But one of the interesting things, I'm going to tell you my news now. It's not my news. I think it's exciting. There's a new essential fatty acid that has been not discovered necessarily, but with science they've now found out what this can do. And it's C15, pentadecanoic acid. So it's an essential fatty acid that has been on the radar for a long time. It's been seen but never known what it does. Really, it's been used more as a marker, if you have a blood test, to tell the doctor that you eat dairy. But Dr. Stephanie Venn Watson, she's a veterinary epidemiologist, and she's been working, or was working, with the US Navy, looking after the dolphins that they train to help them with underwater projects. Now these dolphins come free, they come and go as they wish. They're not kept in any sort of cages or anything. They are free to come and go, but they feed them when they're there, and they seem to stay in the same groups. But she noticed one group were dying younger than the other group, and when she looked into it, they had different diets, different fish being fed them, and the component that was different was C15 was very high in one group and not in the other. And so this sort of led to more investigation when she worked with a human biologist as well to find out more about this. And it's been dubbed an essential fatty acid, really important when it comes to longevity. And there is a supplement, but as you know, I don't like to recommend supplements on this, on my videos. It's got to be a one-to-one process. But you can get it in your food. And Dairy, we've mentioned dairy already. Now, it can be found in butter, some other animal products, but also goat's cheese and sheep's cheeses from high altitudes seem to be incredibly high in it. And that's interesting when you look at the blue zones, particularly the sheep farming in Greece up on the high mountains where they eat the herbal grasses and just graze naturally. They're very high in C15, which may be a contribution to the people living to an old age there. So that's interesting. But also fish, some fish have it, and I can't tell you which ones, so I haven't looked into it in that much detail. But these are foods that contain this very exciting, essential fatty acid. So my message today is, fats don't make you fat. The wrong fats can contribute to fat issues and health issues, but good, wholesome, natural fats are supportive and assist your metabolism and assist you to lose body fat rather than the other way around. So please don't be afraid of fat in your diet. Be fussy about the selection, make sure it's the whole food fats and avoid all the processed man-made ones. Olive oil is particularly good, and okay, we press the oil out of the olives. That is particularly good, and there's plenty of good science behind that. Go for the best you can and enjoy your food, because fat is full of flavour. So I hope again this may have been of use to you, and I would please ask you to share this with anybody who may be fat phobic. And if you like these videos, please feel free to like and subscribe if you wish, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. And if there's anything you want me to talk about in particular, I mean, this has been general rather than specifically to menopause, please ask me and I'll be delighted to see what I can do. And thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.